Okay, it seems like I'm live. Once again, I'm on this screen to make sure that it's actually working as I have intended. And it is 8:30 p.m. on Sunday, May 29th, 2022. And I have moved around the time of this particular video. I thought I was going to be doing it at 6 p.m., but it turned out as the Memorial Day opening weekend at the pool here at Winona Lakes, where I currently live for the next month, maybe. It was open till 8 o'clock, so we closed the place, we opened the place, we closed the place, we had a great time, and I'm back. And I thought I was going to do this at 9 p.m., but I figure I'll move it a little bit earlier and free up the night, because we haven't had a proper dinner yet. We'll probably roast hot dogs over a fire, and I want to get that started real soon. And it turned out that since the last time I streamed, I have not been able to bring myself to close this friggin' PowerShell here because of this command, this elusive command, which allows the logging in to Lavinix, my version of Linux, my distro of Linux. So let me first establish that and get it straight. People like seeing me work in Vim, so the obligatory opening save, the habitual hitting of ZZ to make sure my cursor is centered on the screen, I for going into insert mode, and then talking a little about what I have planned. And you'll notice a little bit of change of the layout of the chat window. My face comes up here, and this text down here was coming up behind my face for a good amount of time. And I figured, yeah, I don't need that. I'll move this text down a little bit. And I invite people to just chime in. This is not going to be a difficult work session. This is just going to be a light edit of my distro of Linux called Lavinix. Hey, Jer. Hey, how you doing? It's not 4 a.m. this time. Yeah, I stream at some strange times. I get it in while I can. My version of Linux called Lavinix is not really a distro so much as a respin. I'm respinning. Yeah, I had that right. Tiny Core Linux. Yay! Yeah, it's a really great version. So much to say about it. I'll just say a few things. The person who created DSL, which is damn small Linux, created it. There was this schism over DSL, and the actual person who did the technical work of that very tiny distro that was very popular as a minimalistic, profoundly minimalistic. I think its claim to fame was that it fit on an old-fashioned business card CD-ROM, so you could give out whole distros of Linux as, hi, how you doing? Here's my Linux. And it also has a repository system like Debian. That was Debian's claim to fame, which is also Ubuntu for all intents and purposes. But smaller. It's a much smaller repo system, but you don't have to do all your own software. You can just do the equivalent of apt install. It's TCE load or something like that. Now, also, I've frozen on older versions. You know, I'm on 7 point something, and they're up to maybe 12. Now, I don't have to stay modern because of the purpose of this. Now, that's all I have to say about Tiny Core Linux, but the other thing is absolutely QEMU. And the things I have to say about that is I use historically popular binaries that have been highly vetted. And that means proven over the years, that have been proven over the years. You know, I've locked down and fixed in on some binaries. The Mac one works on Macs real well. The Windows one works on Windows real well. And I really don't know what more to say about that, except it's not the most efficient emulators out there today, or VMs. It's not the most efficient. It's not fast. It's not meant to be. It was from another day before all these tweaked out virtualization, container optimizations. And the reason for it is to go for maximum variety of OS desktops that it works on. Okay, and then overall, there's Tiny Core Linux, there's QEMU. Those are the two real building blocks. You might say another building block is BusyBox Linux, and that means you get a GNU-like set of Unix-like commands, but at approximately 500K, not megabytes. Okay, this is half a megabyte that gives you the whole Linux command set. And there's also a very tiny web server I use. BusyBox web server. You know, companion web server. It's from like the BusyBox people. I'll show you about it because I'll be in it. And then maybe the last things you need to know is the purpose of this is, you know, the compatibility I mentioned across all these platforms. It really is a sub point here. It works on the desktop of, you know, that's just going to make that messy. It's going to be runs with a double click. Hey, how you doing? Bonnie? Runs with a double click from, and that's where I'll put Windows, Mac, or other Linux desktops. It sounds like a friggin' miracle, right? So it is kind of a miracle in that this thing still works just like it always has. I find myself wanting to go in to do updates from time to time, and then I find myself not doing the updates because when I go to the Tiny Core Linux, and I haven't done any of the tab preparation for this video like I do before. This is the kind of thing I do so frequently, and it's going to take so little research. And there's not that many extra points to make that I had tabs lined up and waiting, but you can see I thought they were up to 12 point something. They're already up to 13 point something. And the version I show is all the way back here at 7 point something. Now, before I go much further, I'm going to minimize this because even though we're going to use that, I need that bit of information. I will give you a little reminder of what's really going on in there. I still have it sitting here. Now, first thing is I'm going to reset it because, well, you know, why even reset it? I'll just show you. I'm going to delete the unzipped version of it. Now, all that's left is that zipped version that I got from the site's download page. So you just Google on Lavinix, or you can go to lavinix.com. I happen to get the domain name, but if you Google on just Lavinix, you're liable to end up on the domain name, the GitHub site, my personal site. There's a few places that give it out. I've got this really neat logo for it. In fact, look at that. That's one thing I haven't shown you. That logo tells you that it's a micro Linux for education. It's a micro Linux for education. And it's not much more than that. It doesn't try to be. People have wanted to use it for more than that over the years. So you just go here, you click that, it'll download it from GitHub. That's why this terrible language of -master is still in there. I probably made the master branch before GitHub moved on to the main language, the more gender, no, it's not gender appropriate, I'm thinking, the more historically, racially sensitive main branch as opposed to master branch. No, I don't mean to reduce the important, language. Extract all. So you download it, and you'll notice that original zip file is only... Hey, I'm doing a live cast if you're stepping in, just to let you know. When I talk about don't do this because of drop, I accept your apology. It's because of habits. It's all about habits. It's always about habits. So I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to keep this video. And it was just after I was talking about GitHub changing their language of their main branch to main from master. It's all about political correctness and language. I was just saying language. All right. So anyway.
Show them the bean.
You can show them the bean. Just keep it nice. All right. So the original download, they can see the bean. I'll let you see that they can see. That's the kitty. That's the kitty and that's the kid. The kid and the kitty. The kitty and the kid. The kid and the kitty and the kitty and the kid. And the other kid, the grown-up kid, the man boy.
The boomer kid.
The boomer kid? I'm a man
Or a
child.
Gen X
I'm like
kid.
Seuss. That's what they... It was Stan who was saying
Don't live in
it.
your
So.
mom's basement, though.
That's true.
Or
I
your
do support
grandma's
myself.
basement.
Yes.
Oh, bean.
Seuss is my soap operas.
What does she mean by Seuss is her soap opera?
Well, when real life is that interesting, you don't really need the stories. So the point I've been trying to make is that, see this 18205 kilobyte? That's 18 megabytes. That means that Lavinix, the whole Linux operating system I'm about to show you, fits into under 20 megabytes. That download, to pull it into your download directory, is like that. Boom, it's downloaded. And now to run it, when you run it, it builds. So the first click, just because of the nested directory of unarchiving a zip from GitHub, it goes in there, and then one more click brings you into the Lavinix directory proper. I wish those fonts were bigger. Man, you can't just Control Plus. As much as I build up Windows, it's really not the operating system of the future. This is all stinks of Microsoft's desperation to hang on to relevancy as the world moves over to Unix and Linux of various forms. And one of the people on my discussion change just said to me, make sure I credit Calvin Irby, one of the great commenters, said that, oh, you removed your comment, Calvin? Come on. He said that he just watched Google I/O and that the new hardware from Google is looking really good, and you get a Debian-based command line. So the shell, the terminal, all this work that I do to get these terminals like this, you just get it, and you get a good version of it when you get a Chromebook because it's built on Linux. So I'll stop flipping left and right on these screens. I know it must be dizzying. So here, where the files are way too small, if you're on Windows, you click this one, which I'm about to do. If you're on a GNOME desktop, GNOME, G-N-O-M-E, or KDE, Plasma, there's various ones from, that are based on previously proprietary, I think the Qt user interface that has been made available in lots of things like Python. But anyway, there's competing desktops on Linux, and this works on those. And if you're on a Mac, this one called Lavinix.app will actually be a clickable and executable icon on the Mac. So the Mac really gets the best one. It's also where all the files of Lavinix are really located. And if I didn't delete the archive, the unarchived version, I could go into reset and I could reset it to beginning. But without further ado, I double click this one. You have to hit open. Right now you got to deal with Microsoft's defenses against these types of things, but it's the second time I've done it recently, so it's not challenging me on the firewall, allowing it through. And this, what you see right now, is the building of a Linux server from components. It's actually going out to that repository, pulling down various things, and that's it. That just built it into a server. That is a built Linux server right before your eyes. And to prove it to you, I'll do something that you're not ever supposed to do, which is just to quit it with a click, right? Click the upper right, it's gone. Now that build process you saw a moment ago, watch it not happen. Watch how much faster the boot is, right? But it skips over that whole pulling down the files, jumps right to here, and there it is again, rebooted. Now you might think, what the heck good is that? What could that possibly be doing on your machine? So before I even show you the fact that that terminal stuff is really what I'm going to be doing, I'll show you that there's a web server here too. Okay, so I'll just go back to my browser. I'll break out a new tab. I'll pull that tab off, minimize the main browser, do this, and then drag this over to the Lavinix screen. And then I'll use arrow snap to do this. Oh, that doesn't look good at all. Does it go back to normal? Yeah, it goes back to normal. Pretty robust. Now, it might be a little bit tiny to see, but it says you can visit http://localhost:8080. Well, let's try that. http://localhost.
I'm stealing the bean.
Okay. :8080. That web server, this right here, and this I can do a control plus on. This web server is being loaded off of here. Don't believe me? Gone. Gone, 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 gone. Bring it back. Is it back yet? Is it back yet? Is it back yet? Is it back yet? Yeah, it's back. That web server is being loaded off of this little server. And the whole networking context, honestly, was probably the inspiration for how Microsoft does it. It's a really wonderful virtual LAN. There's a whole DHCP server, a different set of IPs that are internal only. The DHCP server is one of those IPs. Everything gets its IPs off of there. And this is not reachable by anything except for, in fact, even this being reachable is pulling a trick. Port 8080 is being mapped to a port 80 inside of here through network address translation. Oh, there's so much stuff to discuss, but that's beyond the scope of this. We'll do a quick edit here using that PowerShell login to show you that not only is it a web server, but we can edit the HTML files sitting there. And so you can kick the tires of Linux without even installing Linux on your machine. This is not installed on your machine. It's just a few files sitting on your drive without even having admin rights. So are you with me? Yes. Hello, Bin. Bin. I call you Bin or Bonnie. Either way. Yeah, QEMU is still great. I got to set up ESXL on my server at some point. Okay. I don't know ESXL. It sounds a lot like the old VMware ESX servers. So yeah, there's a long history here. There's so much of this discussion that I would love to dive down into, like the rabbit hole. But, you know, basically there's, you know, high-end professional ways of doing this stuff, which involve things like VMware, Microsoft, and virtual, you know, servers. They have their own way. EMD? Yeah. Well, I think they bought them. They're the same. VMware is now owned by a company that gobbled up a bunch of other companies that does this kind of stuff. But I'll leave these two listed. Yeah, KVM. Built into Linux is KVM. So just the way I discussed how built into Linux was the way of doing containers, which is LXC and LXD, Linux has built into its own kernel a way of doing this, a much more official way of doing it, of course, with Linux kernels. When I talk about these two, they're Microsoft solutions to, they are solutions to virtualization of Microsoft software. KVM is generally used as the built-in Linux way of doing the same thing with Linux kernels, instances of Linux OSs. So when you see this over here, it's really doing something much more like these upper two ways, but with the lower end, not so professional versions. And VMware does offer some of those. There's things like VMware Fusion on the Mac. It's not intended for prime time. It's intended for just playing around on your own local laptop machine. But amongst the king of the hill in this arena is QEMU, which is mostly now used for Android development. And other hardware emulation. And another point here, I could just go on with points forever. This is, in fact, emulation versus virtualization or containerization. Is yet a third thing, right? So what? There's a third thing? Well, it was the old way that this stuff was done and thought of. It used to be that everything was emulation until they got it better with virtualization and containerization. But emulation can really, it's much slower generally, but it has the advantage that it can simulate other hardware, right? I could be simulating ARM hardware, Android hardware, all kinds of stuff. The XSL is Linux hypervisor on the hardware level, by the way. Yeah, so, the idea is to get the hardware to really take care of this. There used to be this concept of level 1 virtualization, level 2 virtualization, based on whether the hardware and very minimal management software like hypervisors is doing the job, or whether the crashy, hacky home stuff like VMware Fusion was really doing the job. That distinction has gone away a lot because consumer hardware has the level 1 ready for prime time, just like the enterprises use built in. You turn it on. That's why I tell people to wait for Windows 11 for WSL space -- install, because that does that magic trickery to give you the better kind of virtualization. I so digress. I'm going to try and keep this a short video. Okay, so we're connected into Lavinix in one way here. We're going to connect into Lavinix another way, and then I'm going to do a git repo pull so that it's not just a downloaded zip, because I can't push up changes from the downloaded zip. I've got to clone the repo. So I'm just going to give you the final idea of what's going on here, and then I'll get to the repo cloning. Okay, so that's on the wrong window. That's got to be over here, and it should be shared now, and we'll use good old ArrowSnap to do the sharing, although it didn't force me to do the screen quadranting that it normally does, and I don't want to do. I'll choose that one there. Not exactly as I planned, but not bad either. All right. Yeah. All right. So this magic command here, I need to preserve that, because that's what I'm going to bake into Lavinix so that people don't have to go hunting for that. Having to go hunt for this magic line in the SSH command is too much to ask for. So I'm going to put it in the web server documentation, and I might change the text here to tell them to look for it here. I'm not going to try and put it here because you can't copy and paste out of this. In fact, you lose your mouse pointer. And let me tell you, I've looked for ways to not lose your mouse pointer. I've tried recompiling. One of my commenters asked me, have I looked at MinGW, part of a Cygwin? Cygwin is a way to make Windows PCs into Unix, fully POSIX compliant, great Unix computers with a nice software repository. But it was a little too heavyweight for people. So there is a smaller version, which is just MinGW, okay? And it was the build tools without all the extra Unix stuff. And I tried using MinGW to compile this in non-graphics mode. This is actually still in graphics mode. Watch what happens to the pointer as I go over it and off of it. And when I click it, it captures the pointer, and you have to press Control-Alt to grab it. So you have to press Control-Alt to get your pointer back. I tried putting this in non-graphics version of QEMU, maybe using curses. There's a lot of ways to get to it. Talk about curses, right? But it turned out to be a huge violation of the 80-20 rule, a deep, deep rabbit hole that would have basically required me to become a proficient C programmer to do it. So I kept it in its current form, which is a magic cocktail of the most mainstream QEMU binaries that are available. Okay, so this magic line here lets you log in using password foo. And now I'm in the machine, ls. This is Linux. This is logged in over here. Don't believe me? cd htdocs ls. Do I have VI? I have VI. Great. So I'll quit out of VI. I don't have Vim yet. So there's a point here where when I advocate VI or VIM, okay, I should say that. When I advocate, oh, I'll read that comment in a moment, Jer. When I advocate Vim, Vim, I do so in part because it's little brother, sibling, keep it gender neutral. Its little sibling VI is built into everything, including 500 kilobyte busy box Linux. And just so my kid isn't the only one guilty of it, I shit you not. And there, they are forgiven. I forgave them. It's okay. It's just habits you don't want to form because of life. You don't know when you're going to be talking to someone who's going to take offense. I'm glad none of you do. So anyway, we go back over here. Oh yeah, I'm going to respond to, yeah. Diffie-hellman was super smart. I've had to write papers about him. Cool, I'll check him out. In fact, when I hear something like that and want to fill in my knowledge gaps, and Neovim is a good replacement for Vim. It's tiny, right? For people who care about efficiency, even Vim is too bloated for a lot of people. Now, I use it because I like to stay on the mains distribution curve. I think I showed that picture. Now, that other web browser I hid, I need that back. Sorry if I make you folks dizzy with this, but you should have seen me on the Amiga with Amiga N. I had to go all the way around in a circle, just like the pig in Toy Story 2. Can't stop. I have to go around all 40 channels. So there's the key exchange technology, which is a thing, and I Instapaper that. But then there's the person himself. Probably hard to find because his key exchange technology is so popular. Oh, is it a person or is it two people? Anyway, I'll get to that. Think. We're showing you Vim here. ls inside that directory shows that there's an index.html, which I can vi index.html because command line completion is there. I can't Vim it. I can vi it. Get that out of your fingers. No, don't get it out of your fingers. Just install Vim on your machines. You don't have to use vi. All right, there's a headline, Lavinix Beta 3.0 documentation, H2. This really is getting served from this little black box. And H2, escape, W, enter, just like on anything else. You go here, you do a refresh. This really is getting served from this little black box. If I close that, that would be gone. Right? Kick the tires of Linux using Lavinix. Yeah, that explains why I couldn't find it as a person. I will Google them individually. Oh, so you're saying the technology itself was super smart, the way that key exchange occurs. Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm fixing a bug that exists in this key exchange process of the SSH protocol. So the program is the protocol. We're using SSH security. And it also happens to stand for secure shell. Okay. SSH is the program and the protocol. Don't believe me? You go to GitHub. You go to any old repo, let's say Lavinix, for example, and you drill down on it. Face your fear of headless servers with this 20 megabyte virtual Linux. Okay, I'll stop marketing it, but when you go to like clone it, where do they put that? Make a liar out of me. Well, you'll see there's an SSH protocol and an HTTPS protocol, which you can switch between. I'm going to have to be here anyway, so that wasn't wasted time. Is a protocol and often gets confused with HTTPS, which of course is more commonly used for the web, and GitHub offers both. And you need to choose one when you're cloning. It's actually quite important because one has password key exchange, operating system level password key exchange built in, so you don't have to fiddle with your username and password, and the other doesn't. So these are important distinctions. Oh, it's under the green code button. Wow, it's nice having people on there. So yeah, there's HTTPS, and you can see cloning it has one URL there, and SSH has a different URL there, and they use the word SSH. You'll hear other things used because these are built into various software packages out there that are probably more popular than the protocol names themselves, like OpenSSH, which has the protocol built in. So I don't know what I'm talking about. All right. The bug that I'm fixing is worth mentioning. The bug that I'm fixing is that SHA-1, something called SHA-1, is has a bug in it. It's been cracked. The hackers can crack SHA-1. It's alternatively SHA-1 is a single word, SHA-1, SHA-1. Probably any of them will pull this up. But you know, you're going to click into it, and they're going to really make sure that you understand that it's you know, it has not been considered secure against well-funded opponents, okay? It's cracked. It's not very secure. You don't run open SSH that accepts SHA-1 logins. But my Lavinix stuff is so old, and I'm not going to bother with updating it. I could get the new open SSH. I could make new tiny core Linux. But as I said, this thing is, what did I say on the preview? It's some sort of perfect. It's oh, it's okay. Whitfield, Duffy, and Martin Hellman. That's great. Yeah, as you can see, I am very forgiving of mistakes. I'm forgiving of mistakes in myself, and I'm forgiving of mistakes in other people. I've described some of my best bosses of the past and present, and you know, I've told people, you know, he's so forgiving. He'll give you a strike 1. He'll give you a strike 2, but don't do a strike 3, because you know, the baseball metaphor is very strong. So everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone deserves a third chance. Fourth chance is really pushing it because they probably are going to continue their pattern. You can pay a fee, an open web instance of your projects with code, but WebAssembly version VS Code. They made this feature just for you. Interesting. Yeah. He's poking fun at me because I really am sensitive to Microsoft installing money-making features at the doorway, right? Whenever there's access to a resource, especially a free and open life-changing resource, Microsoft is going to buy that doorway and then put offers to Microsoft paid services right in that portal. You've seen the poems. I'm not going to digress again. As Dennis Miller would say, stop me before I sub-reference again. So that is the reason when I log out, let's log out, :Q to quit VI, exit to exit out of the terminal, clear to make it nicer to look at, up arrow 2 times to show you that I have this ugly line here to allow it to continue to use SHA-1, saying it's okay. Don't worry, we know what we're doing. And we're logging in as user TC, which the instructions are here. You know, it really is the logging in as user TC with a password foo, because foo is, you know, you got to use foo. Foo is everywhere in computing and other places too. There's FOO and there's FUBAR. There's FOO space BAR, which is one thing, and then there's FUBAR, which is another thing. They're clearly related to each other, but are used different ways. So here, the password is foo. When you log in using this, you already have provided the username. See, you've provided the username there. So all you have to provide is foo. But no one's going to know to type that. No one's going to know to type this long thing. And I have to find a way. Oh, I'm logged into the machine. It's not going to be there. No one's going to know to type this long thing. And I need to provide that way. So first thing is get it in my copy buffer in this wonderful way that my good implementation, I bust on Microsoft constantly, but this click drag in Microsoft Terminal, one of the best things they did. I do reconnect just like I planned, and I realize that following through on this is pointless other than demonstrating editing text again, which I've already demonstrated. So F that. And we are going to git clone to have an instance of Lavinix here that I can git commit and push back up, blah, 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 blah. And so let's do that. X out of that. You know, before I do, because I'll forget to demonstrate this one thing to you that is important for everyone to do at least once in their Linux career. And it's so fast to reboot Linux. Why not show it to you at this point? Get Stage to log back in here. Don't really log back in until I know the server's available. Server's not available yet. You ever wait for a machine to reboot? Oh, it's available now. Make me eat my words. No, good. Foo. Okay. Sudo su. Notice this cursor here switching from $sign to %. $sign means you are a user. Sudo su means super user do super user. Super user do super user. Promote me to super user. The admin level account. Full permission. rm-rf/. What? What are you doing? I am, with super user privileges, deleting every file in the system from top down. And certainly some things have file locks, but everyone should do this at some point in their Nix career just because it's cool and we live in a world where you can. Hey, maybe I can delete some stuff I missed the first. Oh, there's not even the rm command anymore. That's what foobar is. F-U-B-A-R. F-U, beyond all recognition. So U is not you, but up. You get the point. I need not go on. That, I suppose, needed to be demonstrated to you at some point in your life, in your career, and Lavinix is one of those wonderful places where I fully encourage it. This isn't going to be able to do very much either, just whatever's loaded in memory. So press Control-Alt to get your pointer back, get out of that. We're pretty much done with that, as we are everything in this download directory. So we can just delete that. We don't need that anymore. We don't really need this anymore, except, when I do have it back again from a Git clone, we will be going in there. We will, in fact, be using, and you can see connection was reset here. Once I close that, the SSH connections are broken because it requires staying connected. We got some redraw errors, so I'll clear it first. I'll stage the command because we will be logging in. Now let's get Lavinix on my machine without it being downloaded with the equivalent. So when I downloaded it from GitHub, I did the equivalent of clicking, it's somewhere here. My users can tell me again. There's a download here where you can download it without cloning, okay? But we want to clone it. So the cloning address can be found here. I happen to know it. I'm going to retype it. So download zip. It's the equivalent of clicking that download zip. It's in the same spot. So when you're getting software from GitHub, in case people are joining in to Linux, Python, Vim, and Git, a lot of Git activity surrounds the GitHub site, the granddaddy of distributed version control systems. Distributed because the real grandparents of these systems are SourceForge and Fresh Meat and a whole bunch of sites that go back in time much further than GitHub. But GitHub came along and did those same tricks with Git, based communities around it, alleviated a lot of the pain of using Git. Git is painful to use. Git is painful to use. Git is painful to use. So GitHub was totally embraced by the public, the developer community, and then by Microsoft, the soft, loving embrace of Microsoft. Are you with me? Yeah. Linux ACL. Yeah. Oh, no preserve. Wow. So there's even more powerful commands. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to put that in my notes. Oh, I'm going to highlight right from the username who's told me this stuff because I sometimes forget who told me this stuff, and I'm just forming my new habits now. So I don't know totally what my, presence, my YouTube presence is really going to shape up to be. But I do know I want to credit the wonderful people who follow along. I can't believe the quality of the stuff that comes in. A more thorough way to nuke your Linux system. Yeah. Okay. Neovim is important. That was Jer again. Jer has a lot to say on this one. Neovim. When Vim is too big and VI is too small, it's just right. So there's special characters. There's going to be a special character here, so I can backslash that to get rid of it because I'll eventually be pushing this out as markdown. That's not part of that command. That's now just me knowing that to keep showing the screen right. Oh, another way to do it. Oh, a better way to do it. I'll get rid of that backslash because, the idea. Hey, get out of insert mode. Oh, do I have a caps lock? Sometimes this happens. Yeah, caps lock. Okay. I'll get rid of the backslash I inserted here to get rid of the accidental italicizing that you can see happening there. Then I'll just highlight these two lines and indent them that amount. And that gets rid of the accidental italicizing in a different way. Now let's get to the point, right? Come on, Mike, you promised a short video, you promised not rambling, and all you're doing is digressing and rambling and digressing. Okay. You know that I drop myself in this GitHub folder all the time. It's just good practice. Now, I do it in my home directory of my Windows side. That's C:\users/ my username. It used to be the only easy place to get to. Microsoft has solved that by giving us this little penguin. Oh, I'm not on Windows 11, so it's Windows 10. It's still a good idea. I might change that, but here we can do a git clone. I'll make this bit nice and big because this is some of the most important magical incantations anyone will ever do in their career. How big should I make it? Just big enough so that I can get the whole command in. I should make my prompt shorter. Git clone Everyone can remember that. The weird part, git at github.com : this is what keeps it SSH protocol. Username Mick Levin / repo name Lavinix. I double check that location. Oh, where do I do that? I do it here with a function f11. There are more elegant ways. This way will do. I open another Ubuntu terminal and I ls lsl : or not colon, lsl star. Cannot access L, no such directory. Hey, that's correct. I don't have a Lavinix directory. lsl star. You'll see some other ones that I have here. Lavinix.com, Lundervand. You know, you've heard me talk about these. Linux, Python, Vim, Git. I now have a new one registered, which you'll see coming online, which is lpvg.org. I believe that for the Ikagai sphere of what the world needs, it needs to be a .org. None of these suffice. So anyway, I digress again. So I can just do that. That's the naked git clone command. You could do as something, but this will just pull Lavinix down, create that directory I'll be able to cd into and make these changes. Now, an interesting thing is that if I just cd in, make the changes, git commit it, and push it back up, I won't have to reset the server because I'm polluting the repo by running Lavinix out of this location. So I could just type open, which again is the same as doing explorer.exe . But I type open. And that shows you this location that I'm at. That's my normal GitHub repo. But we can actually cd into the now present. If I were to lsl asterisk, there's something there now. Oh, wait, why didn't L asterisk work in the other? Oh, I might not have been, whatever. CD Lavinix. It seemed like it was case sensitive in one place and not the others. It might be my imagination, but here are things that might look familiar now. I'll make that bigger again. Those are those things I was telling you was the main directory of Lavinix. One you can click on a Linux desktop, one you can click on a Windows desktop, and one you can click on a Mac desktop because of their packaging system. Very clever, very unique. I was doing it in the 80s on the Amiga with the help of Howard Harrison and a program called WB Script. I learned, I think, that Sun was doing it. I didn't quite invent it, but I was very close to inventing the packaging system that the Mac uses today to bundle diverse resources like fonts and libraries and executables in a single directory, and then making clicking on the directory actually execute a script that runs things inside, having the correct current directory set so that things are found relative to the directory as opposed to some place the script would prefer. So much. This was the 80s, ladies and gentlemen. 2022 is just catching up with the 80s in so many ways, which is why technology is becoming love-worthy again. That's why I'm here to show you the best tricks. That's why it's time for me to have some YouTube presence. All right. So cd into Lavinix. Oh, wait, I'm going to check the reset directory. cd reset. I just got to refresh myself where some things are located. You know, there's some server components that live in server. cd server, ls, ingredients and recipe. I'm not going to bog you down with the arcane stuff that goes into making Lavinix work. Maybe some other video. cd ingredients, ls. Yes. The force is powerful with this one. Vim index. At bare minimum, I've got to put it in this file. Oh my God. I got to make it as understandable as possible. SSH login warning. Triple exclamation points? I don't know. Just documenting it at all is important at this point. Because when people are going, I can't log in, it's giving me this command, instead of just going to Google and having to make this discovery that I've presumed up till now people will have to make, otherwise they can't get into Lavinix, at least not through SSH, I will provide them because they can see it. I wanted to show it to you here. I X'd out of it. Because they can see the web address, you know, the place that brings up this, right? They can see this web address. I'll at least document it on a page that Lavinix is serving that you can see before having SSH'd in. Chicken and egg, right? As straightforward, as few words as possible. So it's not an SSH warning that just turns people off, that puts them on the alert. What it really is for SSH login, use the following command. Now we're talking. Boom. Commit SSH instructions on web page. Git push. Before I push, we'll do a before and after. Deep breath. Oh, here's the latest changes. Fixed README, tested good, fixed problem with opqcal, fixed bad path and launch script, fixed README, fixed bad path. Thanks to people, right? People tell me about this when stuff goes, and that was 7 years ago. Oh my God, 3 years ago, right? I don't change Lavinix very much. There's a change. SSH instructions on web page 35 seconds ago. From 3 years ago, the most recent commit, 35 seconds ago. That's how much I upgrade Lavinix. But yet you'll find I've got some 500, it might be pushing 1,000 fans on Facebook. I called it Facebook fanware or something. I got to at least have some feedback loop, you know. So let's see if you folks are chatting to me, because then I'm going to do and Celtic Orthodox prayers with me too now. Oh, this is a wonderful session. Every session seems to top the previous by the chemistry mix of the people who are joining in. Yeah, some people only follow this for the digressions. But now that I did that tiny little change and pushed it up, I could do more. There's definitely more I could do to fix this situation. But as people who have looked at Lavinix see, I'm not helping you that much. This is Alice in Wonderland. This is drink me, read me, decide who to befriend, decide what advice to take, you know, find your own way. And so, you know, I can test it with this link. That's probably what I would do. But a better thing to do is for me to look at that and make sure I know what I'm talking about. It is github.com/miclevin/Lavinix.com/archives/refs/heads/master.zip, because the main branch is still called master. So I'm going to leave it that way. And then I go back to that slideshow site that gives you a little overview of the thing. And I put my mouse pointer over that and make sure that's pointing to the same location, which it is. So now I click that because I know it's hitting the same GitHub place. I could be really cautious and click it from GitHub. That's kind of a decent way to go as well. But now I'm going to have in my downloads directory, this folder is empty. Oh, Windows tries to protect you. Okay, well, there's a parenthesis 1 in there. Am I in the downloads directory? I was. Okay. You know what? I delete all of that now. Okay. Yeah, it's like, hey, you just deleted the one that you just git pulled? You get cloned? No, I didn't. I'm in the downloads directory, and it wouldn't matter anyway. Clear everything, right? We don't need any of this showing. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, where does it go? I don't know. I thought I could just clear it. Ah, stupid, stupid Windows. Okay, I can't blame Windows for that stuff. It's me being impatient. But now, pardon me, we do that one more time. There won't be the parentheses 1. There won't be any ambiguity, but we'll still have the culturally insensitive name. I'll fix that at some point. I agree. You abide by these things. The holding out against what people want in their language, what they want to be called, what their pronouns are. Mind police is wrong. Respect is right. So have some respect. Okay. Extract all. They can't control what you think. And they should know, you can't control what I think, but I have respect for you. Will you agree to have respect for me? I'll have respect for you. You have respect for me. It seems like a good way to operate. So we repeat the process. We click on the 1 for Windows. We now might be additionally challenged because, it's going to recognize it as a new binary. It didn't. It recognized it as one it had already given firewall permission to. If I had rebooted my machine, there would be an extra go-ahead. But what you will see now is the server build process. This is just wonderful. You should look at recipe.sh. Oh my God, the things it's doing here. And then the way it shows the Alice in Wonderland and the color selection. You've heard me talk about colors, right? So I have 2 blues, true blues, 2 blues, bringing you from the very blue Python to the slightly more green Lavinix, and, all kinds of stuff. Yellow and Green Lantern yellow is fear. You got to overcome fear. Welcome to Lavinix, the tiny virtual server built from tiny core and QEMU. Acknowledge the masters. That invites you in to crack it open, break it, and reset it to your heart's content. Because Nix makes you powerful, practice makes perfect, and old's cool. And if you do anything, if you follow any of these instructions, that yellow message is going to go away. In fact, what is it to escape? It's Control-Alt, Control-Alt. Let's try a couple of things before I do the refresh. Oh, haha, I did not properly terminate an H2. I'm going to have to do another git pull. No, I have the git pull. I just do another commit. Let's do that and just get it done with. What did I not terminate correctly? Oh, I have 2 open H2s, right? How many of you were screaming at me watching me making that mistake? Look at the color coding change. I close the H2. Git push. Yeah, this reloaded. It reloaded on its own without asking me to. So we don't need any of this again. We're going to re-download that again. And unlike the GitHub pages publishing system, you don't have to wait. There's no stinking wait. But it put a parenthesis 1 around it. Because I'm in master. All right, fine. I'm not going to keep re-downloading and re-downloading, but backspace doesn't do what I thought it did. So I delete these 2 with a delete key. I unarchive this one. Charlie Brown keeps landing on his back, keeps getting up. Oh, but this is different. This is Roomba. Roomba keeps hitting the wall, keeps backing up, turning a little bit. If it were a Lucy situation, we would strive to communicate and receive acknowledgement that we were being heard and understood. That is not so much the case. This is more of a Roomba. Oh, there we go. Allow access. Got to do it quick. You're kind of in a race. So is this big enough for me to blow up? Obviously not. Squirrel obstacle courses. Now that's million view video material, but Improving your life. Now, I see everyone who tunes into me knows most of this stuff. Maybe I'm teaching someone something. We'll refresh that. There, it's fixed. For SSH login, use the following command, right? And that people can put 2 and 2 together now. They see this here. They go, that's not working for me. Oh, what's going on here? Visit that. Oh, for SSH login, use it. I should probably have revved it to version 3.1. Yeah, let's do that. That's significant enough to rev it to 3.1. Repetition is really good. I should say that again. Repetition is really good. People who get mad at you for repeating things even just one time, revved to 3.1. Git push. I don't have to download it again, but I will demonstrate to you the reset thing. I think you folks would probably. So I've already did it. Mission accomplished. Like, that's what the purpose of the video. It's like done. But I'll show you resetting Lavinix after maybe that fancier version of no preserve root. Any reason you're using SSH1 as opposed to any SSH2 implementations like SHA-256? Yeah, because the parts that I'm using to build this are part of history so long ago, so part of the ancient long ago, and I partially just don't feel like updating it, and I partially don't believe that I would be able to find the updates. Now, I'll try and slow down or show you the recipe.sh to show you what some of these components are. Now, maybe I can change it to run in SSH2 mode on the login or something, but I frankly don't know enough. We're using an SSH server, and we're using a web server. Let's see if I can show you a little bit about those two things without getting too techy. Here I happen to be in the ingredients directory. Great. We're using BusyBox HTTPD out of a old repo of Tiny Core Linux. And we're using Dropbear as the SSH server, again out of that equally old version of the Tiny Core software repository. There's a very good chance I could update both of these versions to be more capable or use SHA-2 or whatever. Maybe I could even use the versions I'm on and switch it over to SHA-2. I lack some knowledge. Lavinix lives right at the edge of my capabilities. I am really not as hardcore at all this stuff as I may appear. And that's why I refer to this as a magic cocktail mix that works, and I locked it in place. I have tried various times to do some purity things on Lavinix, get rid of graphics mode. There's a lot of extra software. As small as it is as a 20 megabyte download, I could probably have everything you've seen work in probably, 5 megabytes if I strip all the graphic stuff out and make it a purely curses implementation. But it kicks off a cascading set of rabbit hole projects, each one of which is a little bit larger than my capabilities. Now, if I had all the time in the world, this is exactly the rabbit I would want to chase and make myself known for a 5 megabyte version of Linux that could do all this wonderful stuff and get around these obscure little problems. But I barely even keep this as a project on the side. It's one of my foot in the door, hat in the ring kind of projects, skin in the game. It's not anything I can sink a lot of time into, chasing even a single one of these rabbit holes. So that's done, and I'm going to have to give my kids some food very soon.
What did you say about giving your kid food?
Yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up. I know we're hungry, and I know we have maybe a fire to build. Or
Are you still streaming?
Yeah, I'm still streaming. It's just about done. I've shown the nice people my magic trick. Oh, look at you.
I guess I'm, this is my furry costume.
Well, here you can, you're in it.
Meow. I've got a tail too.
Okay, just keep it all very kid-friendly, okay?
Okay, bye.
Okay. kid friendly, and they must go. Okay. Final things here. Final things is a reset, right? So I have this concept of a reset. Let's grab that nuke your system from orbit. I used to think it was nuke your system for morbid. It's the only way to be sure, because morbid, death. But it's nuke the place from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. So let's first nuke this copy of Lavinix. We'll log in, as is our standard procedure, foo, and use Jer's lovely little, and I'll show you someday, because it's like eat me, drink me, right? You install Python, you install Vim, you have a basic little dev platform, Linux, Python, Vim, and Git. All the stuff I advocate is in Lavinix, and I wanted to give a tiny little tire-kicking way to use it. Okay, so let's use that fancy, oh yeah, sudo su first. And now we can use the fancy commands, recursive. rm-fr rf /* no preserve root. And unlike no preserve root, the stuff I'm on is just old versions. This is not even, Linux proper. This is a BusyBox Linux. It's a 500K Linux at heart as far as these commands like rm are concerned. So everything under the command set, the built-in memory ones, I think they're all built into memory when you're talking about BusyBox, are scaled down versions. So we'll just take out the no preserve root. We'll nuke the system. Now you'll recall, normally when we rerun Lavinix, it doesn't have the server build process anymore. In fact, we don't need to wait for it to finish. We know it's going to finish. I'll just show you how tied together those two things are by clicking out in the middle. And there's no way this is going to run. It's not going to be able to finish its boot up process. Watch it make me eat my words. It's not going to run. It's going to get through a few things, but it's going to get to a point where it's just not going to be able to finish and get to the login screen. There you go. It miraculously ended at this. So it's foobarred, right? We have now successfully foobarred Lavinix. And what you do is you go into reset. You got to close it because of file locks. Reset for Mac, reset from Linux, reset from Mac, reset from Linux, reset from Windows. So without doing a re-download, without extracting. Okay, now we've got to go through the Microsoft, run anyway. One time? Okay, it was just one time. Now it puts a copy of your hard drive in the form it was, just in case you had any work you wanted to preserve. You could copy that QCal, that home backup QCal, back into location. But we don't have to. We'll just go a directory level up and we'll run this again and we'll give it the approval. And you will see the server build process again. It reset it. And we'll get to the actual login, the menu screen again. Maybe as my final thing, I will actually allow. Now, the Python install takes too long. I'm not going to make you wait for it. I'm just going to show you the reset. There we are, back at Lavinix. Nice magic trick, right? People come to me for this thing here. I've touched so many people's lives. I'm pushing 2 million views for showing people how to remove their finger and to just show them, right? So if that's a nearly 2 million views, with each person watching it even just 10 times a piece, I've touched about 250,000 people's lives, 200,000, 500,000 to 250,000. No, I had it right, 250,000 people's lives, about 200,000 to 250,000 people's lives I've touched with that simple little finger removal trick. I would like to touch more people's lives with the great magic trick of life. Unix and Linux are fundamental. Everyone knows it. Microsoft, not the least of which. So, I tried to get it across in different ways at different times. Lavinix was one of the efforts. So you want high-tech superpowers. What do you even call this desire? You see other people bending machines to their will, starting with no more creativity than you have. They just seem to know stuff. Is it programming or is it just being technical? I'll let you do the rest of that. Could there even possibly be a right answer? Well, yeah, sort of. So why old school is cool? Why old school is cool? Anything with a graphical user interface is generally tied to a particular hardware platform and a particular snapshot in time. All that knowledge is going to become antiquated. Games, mobile, desktop software, all but the back end. Back end runs on servers, not browsers. I call it the short stack. Linux, Python, Vim, and Git. I had it articulated quite a while ago. Sounds intimidating? It's actually the least software you could be using to do interesting things. Oh yeah, it's all free and open source software, and you can get it all in an instant with Lavinix. Then ditch Lavinix. You don't want to keep using Lavinix. A lot of people think I'm building something. Boring. Yeah. Well, yeah and no. What fun or good is back-end programming? If it's only machines talking to machines, at some point you need a user interface and a user experience in order to interact with real human beings and do useful things. Well, yeah, it's how all the full web stack runs too. A full web stack doesn't run without Linux or Unix and, the API text-based stuff in the background. That too. And achieving mastery is possible. The least amount of software can run in the most places and let you do the most interesting things across the most fields. All this without you needing to be a career programmer, or much less risk obsolescence. There's countless ways to learn programming and tech. Many are more mainstream, aligned with vendors. They're hot hardware platforms and could get you better keywords on your resume and larger salaries sooner. What precisely is Lavinix? Lavinix is a tiny virtual server that runs on the desktop of Macs, Windows, and Linux PCs, like Ubuntu, with a double click so that you can begin to fearlessly play around with server stuff. Since Lavinix is only tiny core running on the PC emulator called QEMU with a custom start script, it could be modified as a template for efficiently distributing any sort of web alliance, such as ready-to-run web appliance. Alliance. And who is speaking up here? Today I learned in modern versions of Linux it works. Today you learned in modern Jerry, you got deep knowledge, man. I'm glad to learn these things. Keep it coming. It's just some of the stuff I'm using here is so old. It's just a special kind of magic, and that's screen 16 of 21. Should I even finish reading this? It's like a dramatic reading of my poetry. I'm sparing you the point by point stuff. I read that one. So how do I get started? Here's some links. Who are you? I'm Mike Levin. I was done. What do you know? My old logo. See, I was green, right? You guys see me now as a much more balanced character. The new me is a lot more balanced, a lot less color, shoved in your face. The nodding of the acknowledgement that I am, in fact, a blue circle, a fuzzy blue circle. having something to do with, is that NASA? No, that says nerd. And yeah, it's the me without a beard, laying myself, bare before you. And, I could keep on talking, but, it works on so many levels that you don't have enough time for me to keep on talking. So now we throw this open-ended because I showed you resetting Lavinix. Do you see the server build? It did the server build there. I guess I'll start it, installing Python. I'll choose install Python. Now it makes you read. You go, oh, I just do that. Oh no, you got to read. You can't just power your way through this. Enter 1 to exit or 2 to install Python. 2. Let's install Python. Python and Git. Oh, okay, Python and Git. So now it's going through, it's fetching stuff. It's going to take a while. And I'll take a look back here at where you guys are chatting. Now is your chance. I'm going to start closing tabs and wrap stuff up. Yeah. Oh, the RM version it uses is from busy. Oh, yeah. So the flag it says to support R, I, F, and R, R. Okay, well, if you spell it out exactly the way I should do it, I'll try it again and take notes of it because, this is for newer versions here. But I'm even on an old version of BusyBox. I mean, this is the kind of stuff where, I am very resistant to updating because I've been stung so many times going into this magic cocktail that I just don't anymore. And also, I'm going to be a bit sensitive to my kid getting hungry. As anyone who watches me knows, they wake up really on the late side, and I've been feeding them lots of good and healthy stuff during the day. So they're not starving, but it's time. So, 3, 2, 1, let's close some tabs and wind this thing down. Did you like it? Give me some positive feedback. And of course, as I always suggest, spread the word. I'm not going to blow up without you folks telling people, hey, did you see this guy? There's nothing new on the internet, but this guy makes old school look pretty new to me. And, I don't think I'll ever get to 1 million followers on my Mick Levin channel. But, it'd be cool to get to like 100,000 followers. And like they say, your first 1,000 is the hardest. And then you get slick and you sell out and you learn video editing and you follow YouTubers who tell you how to game the system. And then you get your way to 100,000 followers. But, I'm going to do it without compromise. I'm going to do it in other ways. A little compromise, a little selling out. But I'll do it my way. That's it. I closed all the tabs. So thanks for joining me. Thanks especially, Jer, for your contributions today. COP for your continual tuning back in. I love you. Anato von Bismarck is here as well. And Bonnie. So thanks, everyone. Some usual faces. And I'll keep these things up. I'm very pumped over this. And I don't know what my next step will be. I'm actually going to step back, evaluate it, and maybe make that evaluating into a video as well. Sometimes I just type silently when I don't want background noise to get into the video for any reason. I have in the past turned audio off and just typed in Vim. Maybe I'll do that because you feel your way through the next step, what's most broken, where do you get the biggest bang for the buck, and what plates need to be spun. I got a move coming up, so I'm going to be very distracted from this, and the kid and work always take top priority. So, there might be long stretches in between, and now I'm really just rambling. So that gives you a full update. Thanks for joining me on this long overdue tiny little touch on Lavinix, and I hope to see y'all real soon.